For example, Professor Dani, you know, religious rituals became a very important part of our culture. That's why, at present, a process of religious and cultural awareness, or you may say spiritual reawakening, is going on side by side. First of all, the attention towards religion has been changed. It passed from confrontation in the past to cooperation nowadays. The Muslim centers were given full freedom, and much is being done by the religious board of the Muslims of Maveraun Nahar. Formerly, it was said as Religious Board of Muslims of Central Asia and Kazakhstan. Hundreds of new mosques have been built. The old ones are being renovated or given back to the Muslims. The Muslim printed literature has been grown for a dozen times, including the translation for the first time, Holy Quran and Hadiths into Uzbek language. If previously mass media was almost closed for Islamic publications, now the religious authorities are actively appearing in special radio and TV programs, newspapers and magazines. Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Qurban and Nowruz were announced to be holidays and non-working days in Uzbekistan. Thank you. New madrasas are opening, the old ones are expanding. In many mohallas, learning groups for studying Arabic language, Holy Quran, and Hadiths are functioning. So you may see that there is no, quote, mentality vacuums, which is to be filled up from outside. Colonial policy of some European countries in 19th and 20th centuries eventually led to make away countries of this region from each other. Centuries-old and close trade, economic, and cultural relations, for example, Great Silk Road, had been cut off. We feel that the most urgent task today is to remove existing between us walls of hostility and distrust. It's quite natural that clearing up of such obstructions will take from all countries many time and efforts. But one very decisive precondition on this way should be readiness, goodwill, mutual respect between countries of the region, absence of any kind of pressure or superiority on behalf of any country, non-interference in internal affairs of each other. As one of our colleagues rightly pointed out here yesterday, that there should be, quote, ideological and political, and I may add, economical sovereignty. From this aspect, points presented to us by Professor Rasul Amin for our future relations should be accepted as fundamentals. Only on the ground of parity approach without any interference from outside may be started cooperation, development of active economic links, and rapprochement of regional countries. It's my belief that even such remark as yesterday's, that Asman se gira khajur mein atka, should not come between us. So I also would like to end this point with one verse. तल्ख गुजरे जो किसी को ये सदा हक में तलखी के सिवा और है क्या. Practical step for its implementation could be creation of modern infrastructure, which means construction of common transport. I mean water, land, and air, and telecommunication system. It's vital importance. Creation of common power network covering all countries can also be helpful in economic integration of the region. By the way, such network already exists in Central Asia. Uzbekistan shares its surplus electric power to all neighbors, including southern Kazakhstan and North Afghanistan. Commissioning by the year 2000, Uzbekistan's biggest thermal power station, so-called Tali Marjan, export possibilities of our power energy will be sharply increased. Implementation of such programs can help to make more close contacts between countries of the region and even to establish in future some kind of regional common market. Maybe it will be some kind of recall. Jack Attali, president of European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, rightly said, the most urgent thing today is more integration, free transportation of goods, services, finances, and manpower. Participation of all Muslim countries of the former USSR in Tehran meeting of ECO in February 92, our future membership in OIC and other regional organizations will consider as significant steps in this direction. By the way, in the regional integration process might be quite useful also an experiment accumulated by Central Asian republics in their close and business-like cooperation. For the last 2 years, our leaders of Central Asia and Kazakhstan had 3 high-level meetings. Neighboring brothers are becoming closer to each other in all spheres. For promoting close and multilateral links, first of all, we shall consider how to overcome language barriers. Of course, English may help us in great extent, but we have to learn each other's language too. Firstly, because of business needs. Secondly, to know better each other's culture, traditions. There is one Uzbek proverb, Tilga hurmat, elga hurmat. Respect for the language is a respect for the people. That's why it will be necessary to have bilateral agreements between our countries to teach language of a proper country. This problem also must be solved by some extent by opening cultural centers of our states. By the way, establishing of such Turkish center in Uzbekistan is being considered now in Uzbekistan. Establishing of one big regional training center, or I may say university, will meet requirements of all countries without exception. Considering technological standard of our region, fundamental science, its agriculture-oriented economy, educational and living standard of our people, this university could train qualified experts on medicine, agriculture, engineering, and fundamental science. Such center may be established in Uzbekistan on the base of one of its leading higher institutions. It would be not only tribute to medieval period, when such ancient cities as Samarkand and Bukhara were academic and cultural centers of Muslims and entire world. But main argument in favor of this idea is availability there of high standard intellectual, scientific, and technological potentials. One of the powerful factors of people's rapprochement, as rightly said today, Vice Chancellor of this university, Anwar Khan Saab, is tourism. I hope that unnecessary to mention world-famous great Central Asian cities, maqbaras of great personalities as Imam Bukhari, Amir Temur, or Ahmad Yassavi. Visiting such sacred places remain very dear dream for practically every Muslim. In this context, to business and cultural tourism, we may add one more type of tourism. It's maybe called pilgrimage tourism. Zair, ziyarat karne ke liye jo jaye. Representatives of our countries can discuss the problem and work out one common regional tourism program, which might be a part of the reviving Great Silk Road. At present, Uzbekistan has been developing its tourist centers, but commissioning of new hotels lags behind of a rapid increasing of tourism. In order to solve this problem, Uzbekistan is planning within next 5 years to open 20 more most modern tourist hotels. If some companies in your countries are interested in it and ready for its investment in hotel industry in Uzbekistan or develop tourism with our country. Our tourist agencies will be happy to cooperate with you. These, ladies and gentlemen, were some my points which I tried to project here before you. Thank you very much.
I thank Dr. Nizam for this highly interesting and informative speaker. The next speaker is Dr. Reza Shabani, who is professor of social history at Tehran, Isfahan, and Cambridge University. Mr. Shabani is a graduate. These people want tea. Well, after this. Please allow one thing. Professor Shabani is a graduate from Paris, also author of 6 books and 40 articles on social history. I invite him to give his presentation.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم و الحمد لله رب العالمین. I may better understand the anxiety for those people who deserve some cup of tea. Okay. I would like a little bit hurry to finish my speech and then letting you, such a very prominent personalities gathered here, to not hesitating to get your teas, inshallah. Well, Mr. Chairman, distinguished scholars, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really under great obligation to Dr. Professor Rasul Amin, who had very kindly granted me, in fact, this opportunity to bring to your kind attention my little remarks. I know that I was not already informed about this meeting, and my name, of course, is not appeared in the list, but this is a great privilege given to me as one of the Iranian responsibles here at Islamabad, heading the joint venture of Iran-Pakistan Institute of Persian Studies right there in that city, that if necessary further on I could have some explanation about it if related to my speech. But as I was so much encouraged now to see that some eminent personalities from several countries, such as Professor Ataof from Turkey, another professor today of the same country, reciting some words in Persian, then I prefer to go firstly to immortal Sa'di and to recite something from that famous and renowned personality. هزار جهد بکردم که سر عشق بپوشم. هزار جهد بکردم که سر عشق بپوشم. نبود بر سر آتش میسرم که نجوشم. به هوش بودم از اول که دل به کس نسپارم. به هوش بودم از اول که دل به کس نسپارم. شمایل تو بدیدم نه عقل ماند و نه هوشم. به هوش بودم از اول که دل به کس نسپارم. شمایل تو بدیدم نه عقل ماند و نه هوشم. I didn't want, in fact, to speak here, but when I saw that such a great gathering from such an eminent scholars have gathered here, I thought possibly I could offer you something from my own country as well. But what to talk? I was much inspired yesterday from Dr. Amin's proposal that we are not going so much to the history. And we have gathered here, in fact, to understand that what could be the future of the neighboring countries, what would be the future of the countries stated here. And this inspired me too much to have my talkings about that. For this is in fact the real duty of the scholars, if not politicians, political scientists, to show the ways to those who are actively unseen. Well, just as a short background, I wish to refer that what we really have been and what changes we have received during these 2 centuries. And where are we now and what really we are going to do. Up to 2 centuries ago, all the nations established in the area were just known for each other. We had no problem with each other. If we had such a great empire as Turkey in western part of Iran, and our brothers now in our neighboring republics as Mawara un-Nahr, namely nowadays Central Asian republics, and Afghanistan, India, in some other parts, we were quite known for each other. Of course, it's true to say that we had difficulties, and so unfortunate to talk about these difficulties that as a student in history, I could say, this is our real sorrow that we can't change the history. The history is not relating to say that why this event has come to the scene. Just we can say how. But I put the blame more or less for some politicians or rulers on those days who wanted for their own benefits to create some difficulties such as the war between Sunnis and Shiites, from any side it might be. And we didn't get any benefit from such activities. All the benefits went to the European countries, who got this opportunity to put themselves, as the leader of the world, on the top of the world, and to weaken us day by day, gradually, up to bringing us in that terrible situation, who enabled them to overwhelm our societies and demolish our nationalities and to disperse what we had as a nations. I mean, separately named nations. We know that what has happened during these 2 centuries, that most of them were coming from this kind of disunities we suffered very seriously. The things which refers to Iran is that we terribly suffered from Russia at the north part and Britain in the southern part. And no one here in subcontinent could ignore that the people, such a beloved people, really, that it is more than a year that I have this honor to be amongst them, who absolutely were terrified and they were exploited by the British, and they suffered very severely, and they lost many things together with their wealth, of course. Well, up to that time, we had some animosity with each other, it's true, some enmity coming from any sources, but within a time, we could solve our problems, and Turkey could be Turkey, the Ottoman Empire could be the Ottoman Empire, Iran could be on its own, Afghan could be on its own position, and India could be known as it was. But from that period up to now, you know that we lost many, many precious things. Starting from the industrial period and the afterwards revolution we had in machinism, and then coming to this period that we are now confronting with technology and modern technocratism. the Western societies were able to exploit us and to demolish us and to bring them in the upper well and to show themselves as their Eurocentrism was stating as the model for the other nations. And this model came to our mind in the way to make us believe that the real way of living is coming from Europe. And afterwards, of course, the United States, which is replacing now those powers of the European countries. And their way of living in thought, the same as in culture, in religion, and any other aspects of life, could be the model of our living. I told you on any occasion, just other day here, that we really didn't have something as malaise, which is nowadays spoken of in Iran, that when we wanted to get or to make our revolution, we really were spoiled, and we were really feeling overwhelmed by the Europeans, by the Western societies. And it didn't mean that we are against Americans or against British or Germans or any other nations. We just wanted to be ourselves. And this is what I learned from a word, from a sentence narrated from Socrates, which says, know yourself, accept yourself, and be yourself. This was the true message of our revolution for the Iranians. And we wanted really to be ourselves. We couldn't imitate the others. We didn't want to imitate them. We didn't want to be a monkey and fulfilling the monkey way of living. I mean, any nation has its own dignity. And it is quite clear that if you're on the scene of civilization, you give many things to the others and you accept many things. But there is some big differences, in fact, amongst what we lose and what we get. If there is something such as technology and science, no one could ignore it. Of course we need it. And we know that the Western societies nowadays are in the position to give us. And we go to them. We have universities at the same style that they have. And we now use microphones, telephones, electricity, and many other things. It is not a question of being ignorant to such crafts and gifts coming from anywhere. And at the contrary, we have given many other things to them. Just today, the people were speaking of their backgrounds, about what they have had. And I'm sure that if we could have some better consideration, any other nation from Turkey coming to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and India, Pakistan, and all of them have many things to be proud of. The thing that we didn't want to lose is our identity. We wish to be ourselves, at the same meaning that our dear brothers and sisters Turks feeling now, and I'm sure that they are proud of being a Turk anywhere in the world they are. At the same way that a Pakistani feels, and an Afghani feels, and of course an Iranian may feel, and we feel very clearly. We wanted to keep our identity and to keep at the same position that the other nations, progressive nations, or better say developed nations, are and were. But we came to understand that there is a large gap between us and them. When I remember the 19th centuries, our philosophers and thinkers were thinking about Europe, and they found out that how some tournesol with some phenolphthalein may be mixed with each other and make something that they didn't know. They lost themselves. They lost their personalities. And no one could ignore that a nation may be survived just through its celebrities, through its academic people, through its elite. And when we understood that our rulers or the leaders are losing their confidence on themselves, the majority of the people tried or understood to lose themselves. And this is what we didn't want. After living at least about 1/3 of a century in some European countries, in several European countries, and getting many experiences, I have come to this point that Westerner is Westerner and Easterner is Easterner. At least this is my own belief. I can't be an Englishman, and an Englishman can't be an Iranian. We are really different from each other. So far, I have much respect for any Englishman, for any American, for any French, or any other nations and nationalities. It doesn't refer to anything coming from animosity, but we wish to be ourselves. Now, the majority of people who are here and who belong to this part of the world very easily understand that we are so much affectionate people. We are so much emotional. We are so much connected to each other. We so much pay attention to something which is called politeness. And the protocol in the Eastern countries, sounds something different from the European countries and Western societies. We are not putting the blame on them. They are satisfied and they are proud of their own ways, and we are proud of ourselves. And this is what our ancestors have left to us. And I'm loyal to them. I keep my fidelity to my ancestors, and I can't do anything else other than that. I can't do anything else. When I understand that somebody is trying to speak Farsi, it influences into the bottom of my heart. And this is a real vice for me nowadays that I count it for myself as a default. That my father was speaking Turkish very fluently, and I can't do that. But my daughter-in-law is coming from Ardabil. Those who are familiar with Iran knows that Ardabil is a Turkish-speaking area of Iran, and I love her really as my daughter-in-law, and I'm decided personally to go to learn this very, very beautiful language. And I do that, to being in contact with the great majority of people in the area. Why should we deny ourselves? We love them, we are in close contact with them, and we have experienced the life through histories, and we understand now that the enmities don't work. We need unity. This is in that respect that we have gathered here, and we wish to know that what are we going to do? The history up to now has taught us some very serious thing. That if the other people, if the foreigners would like to meddle into our affairs, to interfere in our business, and to make problems for us, they're quite able to do, and no one is going to blame them. They know how to do. They are quite master. For 5 centuries, they have ruled the whole world. They have done all intrigues in every way they wanted to do. And they have shown their masterness, their capability in doing these kind of business. And we are now at the point to understand that we need to be reunited. This is what we understand from something common with us. These points of comment is not one. We could enumerate lots of them. If on some occasions we are putting accent on Islam, it doesn't mean that we are going to show you a model. It is the Islam that your ancestors have, and it is up to you to accept, to to any extent that you wish. We are not going to show you. Of course, this is my personal view. But all I understand from my government's policy is that we don't want to impose anything to anyone. It's up to you to decide about anything you wish. The mature people as you are and mature nations as you proudly represent know much better about what to do and what to think and what to decide and what intention they may have. It's up to you, of course. But Islam has something very basic in its base, basically. And we can come to the Kalimatullah, which unites any Muslim anywhere. I could very easily understand that if Professor Attal is walking in Washington's street and sees a